So this is ESL 0510 workshop. This is your IGCSE 2022 final exam preparation. And for this session, we will focus on the last component for your ESL paper. So what we're going to have a look at for today's session is, we're going to have a look at component 5. So far we have covered paper 2. We have also covered paper 4, which is your listening paper. And now we're going to have a look at component 5, which is your speaking test. So speaking test, the duration of this paper, this test, will be approximately 10 to 15 minutes only. And the overall marks for this test is 30. So what is assessed for your speaking test is, they will have a look at these 3 criteria. The first one is grammatical structures. Second one is the range of vocabulary. The third one is development and fluency. And the fourth one is pronunciation and intonation. So these 4 things is what you are assessed on. So the percentage of the qualification for this paper, all right, it is separately endorsed. So this will not be external assessment. Instead, it will be an internal assessment. It's a separate result that is given for your speaking test. So again, like I said, it's approximately 10 to 15 minutes. The total marks is 30. It is internally assessed and externally moderated, which means it will be conducted by your own English teacher. And then the results will be externally moderated. That means the Cambridge people will still have a look at your results. And then it is separately endorsed. It does not contribute any percentage to your overall grade. All right. So what do you actually do in this speaking test is, there'll be a 2 to 3 minute warm-up conversation, and you will be engaged in a 6 to 9 minute discussion with the examiner on a given topic. Okay, that is how you will sit for this speaking test. What happens is, during this speaking test, you will be in an exam condition, all right? But there will only be just you and the examiner in the room, okay? The whole of speaking test will be recorded. This is something that you should know. The entire session, that 10 to 15 minutes with the examiner, will be recorded, okay? So like I said earlier, the test has 4 parts, right? The first one is an introduction by the examiner about what is going to happen throughout the speaking test. Second, you will have a warm-up conversation that lasts about 2 to 3 minutes. This is for you to help you to relax and also to help the examiner to choose an examination part for you. All right. However, you must know that this warm-up conversation will not be assessed. Only then, after the warm-up conversation, the examiner will give you a topic card. Okay, they will choose the card for you and they'll give it to you. So once they have selected the card, you then have 2 to 3 minutes to just prepare for what you are going to say in the assessed part of the test. Okay. However, during this speaking test, you are not allowed to write any notes, okay? You are not allowed to bring any dictionary, all right? And this assessed conversation with the examiner or your teacher will be entirely based on the topic card that was selected, okay? And this is the part where it lasts for 6 to 9 minutes. So all these 4 parts will be about 10 to 15 minutes altogether. Okay, so just remember there is 4 parts to your speaking test. Before I go more in detail on the parts of your speaking test, let me show you a guide. This is something that you need to know. All right. The main purpose of you sitting for this speaking test is for them, all right, to assess the language used with the purpose of meaningful communication. All right, it is to test the purpose of meaningful communication. All right, and like you know, as you know, the speaking test usually will take place before your main IGCSE examination period. It's usually the first test during your IGCSE examination. Okay, it will be way ahead before you sit for your real other papers. Okay. So before this itself, the centers will receive the materials for the speaking test. All right, the Cambridge will actually send all the materials to the centers or the schools. All right, and this is when the teachers will actually allow sufficient time to familiarize themselves with the materials and the procedures. Okay, and after the test, the centers or the schools, they must send back the material for external moderation. Okay, even though the teacher is the one who assessed you and gave you the marks, however, it still needs to be sent for external moderation by the Cambridge before the advertised deadline. There'll always be deadline given by the Cambridge. Okay. So when the materials come in, all right, when the centers receive the materials, they will receive a range of speaking test cards, okay, with an accompanying set of teachers' notes. So just like how there will be topic cards for you, teachers' notes will also be given for the teacher's reference. Okay, and each card introduces a topic for discussion between the teacher and the candidate, together with the prompts for the development of the question. So usually the prompts will be stated in the topic card itself. Right, there will be about 5 prompts underneath the topic. Okay, and those prompts are the one that is used to develop the conversation between the student and the examiner. Okay, so now that you know what is the ESL speaking test all about, let's have a look at the structure of the speaking test. Each speaking test lasts approximately 10 to 15 minutes as follows. So we have 4 parts. Okay, as an ESL candidate, you must know all these 4 parts. Okay, part A, an introduction by the examiner about what is going to happen in the test. All right. And part B, it is the non-assessed conversation, which is also known as the warm-up conversation. So this part is actually to help you to relax, okay, and also to help the examiner to choose a topic card for you, okay. And this part B will only take about 2 to 3 minutes. It will not take longer than that. Okay. And then the next one is part C. Part C is the preparation period for the candidate to read the speaking test card and to prepare a response. Okay, because part C, you will already receive the topic card in your hand already. So you are given the time for you to prepare what you are going to say and talk to the examiner. So part C will only take about 2 to 3 minutes also. And the last one, part D, which is known as the assessed conversation with the examiner based on the topic card, and the duration will be 6 to 9 minutes. So just as you can see, we have 4 parts here. Okay, part A, part B, part C, and part D. May I know which part is the only part that is assessed? Which part is assessed? Yes, only part D is assessed, which means the examiner will only give you marks for what you are talking or for what you're sharing in part D. Whatever you say in part A, part B, part C will not be given marks, but it will still be recorded. The entire session, 10 to 15 minutes, will be recorded. So please remember, part D is the most important part. You must not blabber. Okay, you must be very good with your fluency, your intonation, your pronunciation. Okay, so now I'm going to go more in detail, part by part, on what you should prepare. Okay, and how the procedure, how this whole thing will be carried out. Okay, so I'm going to start with part A. Part A is known as the welcome and introduction part. So first thing that the examiner will do once you and the examiner are in the room is they will start the recording. There will be a recorder, all right? They will start the recording, and then the examiner will welcome the candidates and explain briefly what is going to happen during the course of the test, using the examiner's script on the relevant speaking test part. So a script is actually given for the examiner already. I'll show you the script later. This part will not be more than a minute, okay? Rarely, a very rare occasion only, it'll take about 1 minute, okay? And this is how it looks like, okay? This is the script, okay, in part A. So this, the whole part A is done by the teacher or the examiner. The candidate doesn't have to say anything, okay? So you can see the first, for example, I am the examiner, I am the teacher, so I'm the one who is going to introduce in part A, okay? I'll greet the student first, I'll introduce myself, okay? And there are some main details that I will be mentioning, such as center number, center name, examination, examiner name, which date the exam was conducted, and then your candidate number, your candidate name. All these are some of the important details that will be mentioned in part A. Okay, the purpose of this is just to do the welcoming part and the introduction part. Okay, and as you can see at the bottom there is a bold words in bold, right? So that is the part where the examiner will tell you about what is going to happen throughout this speaking test. Okay, they will tell very in detail about what is going to happen in the next few parts. Okay. And once they have explained everything, they will ask you whether if you have any questions. So you must take this chance or opportunity to raise any questions that you have. Okay, for example, maybe you are not clear about a certain part. You can immediately ask and clear your doubts. Okay, use the time and ask any doubts you have for the speaking test. Okay, so this is part A. Okay. So part A, candidate has nothing to do. You just have to listen and the examiner will do the welcoming and the introduction part. Moving on to part B. Part B, we call it as the warm-up conversation. And the duration for this is 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. So what is the purpose of this part is to give the candidate time to get used to the examination situation. Okay, it's to give y'all time to get used, to get comfortable, all right? And also to put the candidate at ease by conducting a short conversation, all right? And not only that, this is the time where the examiner will choose a suitable topic card based on the conversation that you had with the examiner, okay? So what the examiner will do is they will ask you questions about your hobbies, okay? What are your interests and general topics, just to create a very natural and informal conversation between you two, okay? They want you to be comfortable when you're talking with them, okay? That is the whole purpose of part B, okay? However, they are not, as the examiners or the teacher, they should not ask about how the candidate is feeling or your focus on the exams or any school matters. Why? Because this is contrary to the purpose of this phase. They can only talk about your hobby, your interest, all right, or any general topic, okay, anything about current issues, but of course not sensitive issues, all right. And lastly, the examiner will take care that the candidate does not answer questions with a view to leading them to select a particular card. So what do they mean here is, when you are talking about your hobbies or your interests, you tend to share what is your interest, right? What do you like and what you dislike? But that doesn't mean the examiner must choose the card of your choice. Okay, that is not the purpose. All right. So I'm going to show you some of the warm-up questions that the examiner might ask you. These are the warm-up questions. This is just example. They won't ask all of it, just maybe about 5 questions, 5 to 6. Okay. So, for example, what you like doing in your free time? Okay, basically this is a question. They want to know what is your hobby, okay, or what are your interests, okay? What is your dream job, your occupation maybe? All right, are you a pet lover? Who is your favorite celebrity? All this is just to start a conversation with the candidate so that you are comfortable talking with the examiner. Okay, so just have a look at these questions here. These are just samples. Not all of it will be asked, just about 5 to 6, depending on how long and how much you share about yourself. Okay, so clear with part B for now. All right. Moving on to part C. Part C is the preparation period, and this will last about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. So what will the examiner do in this part is, the examiner will select one card, not the candidate from the range provided. Okay, that means the candidate does not have the option to choose the card on their own. The examiner is the one who will choose the card for you, aiming to use as wide as the range card across the group of candidates as possible. All right, there will be about 10 topic cards and all of it will be used. All right. The candidate should not be allowed to select their own card, and the card must not be changed once the card has been announced and given to the candidate. Okay, so for example, after the warm-up conversation, I already choose the card for you. All right, but after that, I cannot change my mind. I cannot change my mind and I cannot change the card after I've announced because it's being recorded. All right. So it's not possible for you to change the card once it has been announced by the examiner. All right. The selection must be made with care after the warm-up and not decided in advance of the test. Okay. This is also important. There is no way the card is selected before the exam. Only in part C, it will be selected for you. All right. And the examiner will choose a card that will work well for the candidate, something which you will be able to connect to and be interested in. All right. And also, they will also make sure the cards are not selected at random or follow the alphabetical order. For example, the first candidate come in, I give card A. Second candidate comes in, I give card B. No, we don't do that. We won't follow the alphabetical order. We will mix up all of it and just choose as what is suitable for the particular candidate. All right, so this is the script, okay? This is the procedure. All right, so the examiner will choose one card for the candidate, and I will say all this. I'll say I'm going to give you the assessment card. For example, assessment card C. All right, so I would say you have 2 to 3 minutes to look at this. You can ask me any questions if there is anything that you don't understand, but you can't make any written notes. All right, so please remember, during the speaking test, there is a recorder. There is also a stopwatch. All right. So why the durations are very important is there is a stopwatch to keep count of the time. It will always be counted. All right. So for this part C, 2 to 3 minutes is allocated, right? You are encouraged to use the entire 2 to 3 minutes to go through the topic card and all the prompts that is stated in the card. All right. Only when you are ready, the examiner will proceed to part D. Okay, so if you're not ready, then you have to use the entire 2 to 3 minutes, and then you can start part D. All right, clear everybody? So what you must do when the card is given is, let me show you. So once the card is given to the candidate, the letter and the title of the selected card should be announced. Like I showed earlier, we will let you know which card you have selected and what is the title of the topic card. Okay? There are few things that you need to remember during this part C. First, You cannot make notes during this period or use a dictionary. Okay, you cannot use dictionary. Number two, you can ask questions about the wording on the card. If there is something that you don't understand, maybe a word that you do not understand, so you are allowed to ask questions. Okay, remember this. Number three, you should prepare ideas in response to each of the prompts on the card. So remember, in part C, you're given 2 to 3 minutes, right? So once you have read the topic cards, you have gone through the 5 prompts, you should already mentally prepare what you are going to say for each and every prompt. You cannot skip any of the prompts. You must use all the 5 prompts. Okay? Number 4, you can introduce related ideas of your own about the topic. Not necessarily you must say what is given in the topic card, the 5 prompts, but you are allowed to share some ideas of your own as long as you don't run out of topic. It has to be related to the topic. All right. Number 5, you will be having a conversation with the examiner about each of the prompt in the order that is given in the topic card. All right. They will not skip the order of the prompt. They will go one by one as how it is stated in the topic card. All right. And last but not least, like I said, you have 2 to 3 minutes to prepare, and you are encouraged to use the entire 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to show you how your topic cards will look like. Please have a look here. Okay, so this is topic card A. The title is Leaving School. All right, this is your card. You see there is an introduction line that leaving school is a key moment in almost everyone's life. So usually in this part, in part D, the examiner is the one who will use the introduction line. They will use the line to start the conversation. So you see, use the following prompts in the order given below to develop the conversation. All right. So you can see here there is 5 prompts. The first one is how you felt or think you will feel about leaving the school. Second one, the opportunities and challenges you faced or might face. Third one, whether continuing education is a good idea for everyone. Number 4, what governments can do to provide young people with opportunities. And the 5th one, the suggestion that equal opportunities for all young people is an impossible dream. So please remember, all 5 prompts will be used for your assessed conversation. All right, so this is just a sample. I'm going to show you another sample card. This is topic card B. The title is Air Travel. Okay, this is talking about people who travel by air. And then there's topic card C. It's about gifts. Okay, you all know what is gifts, right? Presents. All right, so they're talking about which are the times that you offer gifts to each other. And topic card D about communities. All right, society, about people who live in the same area, sharing the same interests. Okay, so this is just some of the examples of topic cards. Just like how I've showed you, we have 10 topic cards that will be provided by the Cambridge. Okay, now moving on to part D, the last part of your speaking test, which is the assessed conversation, and this will last about 6 to 9 minutes. Please remember, this is the main part of your speaking test, and this will be the only part that you will be given marks. Okay? So this part, it will be based on the conversation, based on the topic card that have been selected in part C. Okay? The entire part will be managed by the examiner, ideally leading the candidates through the prompts. Okay, it will not be a monologue. Do you guys know what is a monologue? What is a monologue? Yes, you talk to your own self. So please remember, speaking test is not about you talking to yourself. It's not a one-person conversation. It has to be a two-way conversation. Okay? So this part will follow a discussion format from the outset and must not be a monologue. Engage the candidate in a two-way discussion. Okay? It has to be a conversation between two parties. All right? So like I said earlier, there will be an introductory statement on each part which may be used by the examiner or the candidate for starting the conversation, right? Not only that, each of the 5 prompts provided must be used in the order which they appear on the card. Okay, the same order, this one, all right? All the way from the top till the bottom, we will follow the same order. We will not mix it. Okay, and also care will be taken on paraphrasing any prompts. Okay, it is not encouraged for you to paraphrase the prompts because you might change the meaning of what they have stated in the card. Okay, and also in part D, the examiners are given the option to ask additional questions based on the candidate's response. Not just the 5 prompts, but they can ask you additional questions so that you can respond to the changes in the direction of the conversation. Okay? But of course, they will not run out of topic. It will be topic related and they'll ask you a few questions extra. All right? The candidate is also free to consider any other related ideas of their own. Okay? It is advisable that the later prompts do not always relate to a candidate's personal life, but a wider context. Okay? And at the end of the text, at the end of the test, the card must be collected from the candidate. Okay, so once the whole thing is over, the card will be taken away from you because you're not allowed to bring it back home. It's confidential. Okay, so this is how part D's procedure will look like. The teacher or the examiner will read the opening sentence and then they'll start the conversation. They will use the 5 prompts and ask range of questions. And then, of course, they will thank you and then they'll say that it's the end of the test. And of course, please remember, it's confidential. You are not allowed to discuss what you have shared during the speaking test to any other person outside the room. Okay? So what do you do before the test? Before you actually go for your speaking test, all right, you are encouraged to use topic cards from previous speaking tests and practice having conversations with another person. Okay, this is the only way you can practice for your speaking test. Okay, so you can get the other person to ask you questions and provide you marks for each strand of assessment criteria. Okay, you have to do practice with another person. If not, you will not do well. You will not know which are your mistakes. Okay, number 2, don't worry about the topic that might come out in the real test. Okay, you don't have to worry about the topic parts, because the topics that are chosen will usually be about something that can be developed easily. They will not give you a very hard topic. All of it will be easy. It will be easily developed. Okay, so you don't have to have any expert knowledge on any of the topic. It is also not necessary. So try to revise any topics which you think might be used. If you go through your past year paper for paper 5, for component 5, you can have a look at all the topic cards. Usually every year it will somehow be related. Okay, so you will have an idea on what you could expect for your upcoming speaking test. Okay, so please remember, this speaking test is not about how much you know about the particular topic, but it is about how well you can have a conversation about it. Okay, there's a difference. All right, it's not about how much you know a topic, but it is how about you can have a conversation. How much can you discuss about the topic with the examiner? Okay, So throughout this speaking test, the examiner will assess you for the conversation, right? So they will award you, the overall marks is 30, okay? There are 3 criteria that they will pay attention to, and each contributes 10 marks. So the overall will be 30, okay? The first one is the structure, okay? So when you are talking with your examiner, they will have a look at the range of sentence structures and phrases that you use and how accurately they are used. Okay, this is what they will. May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? Please stay focused. All right. Number 2, vocabulary. After structure, we will have a look at the vocabulary. All right, the range of words that you use and how detailed they are. Okay. And the last one is they will have a look at your development and fluency. So in this part, they will check your ability to help to keep the conversation going by developing the ideas and how clearly and fluently you say the words. Okay. So these 3 things are important, very, very important. So let me show you the rubric of the speaking assessment criteria grids. All right. So 3 things are being assessed. First one is structure. Second one is vocabulary. Third one is development and fluency. So you see the highest score is 9 to 10. So in order for you to receive this 9 to 10, see the first row, you have to use a range of structure accurately and consistently, and you must be confidently in control of the structures that you use. Okay? Vocabulary, you must use a sufficient of range of vocab to respond. Okay? You must communicate your ideas clearly. And then for development and fluency, you must show sustained ability to maintain the conversation with your examiner, all right? And you must respond to a change of direction. Every time the examiner asks you a question, you must be able to answer them, all right? So you must have the ability to expand and develop the topic and contribute some original ideas. Not only that, your pronunciation and your intonation throughout the speaking test is very important. You have to be clear, all right? You have to be careful with your pronunciation, not too soft also. You must have intonation, okay? Ken, do you have any questions about the assessment criteria grid? No questions? All right. So let me share some general advice that can be helpful for you during the test. Okay. Sorry. What is? Intonation, the way you say a thing. For example, you are saying about something that is arguable, something that can be argued. So you can raise your voice. You cannot talk in the same tone. Okay? All right, let me share some general advice for this test. So during the introduction, okay, these are the things that you must do. Okay, please remember, these are the things that you are encouraged to do. Okay, during the introduction, the part A will come an introduction part. So if the examiner has not told you about the test, then you can ask the examiner to explain what will happen. Okay, this is very important because you must know what is going to happen in this speaking test. Second, during the warm-up conversation, which is not assessed, what should you do is you must try to get comfortable and used to talking to the examiner. All right. Not only that, during the warm-up session, warm-up conversation, you must try to give as much information as you can to the examiner about yourself, even though it is not assessed this part. But it's very important for you to express yourself because then only they will be able to choose the topic part for you. Okay, so this could be about your hobby, your interest, or any current issue. that are on your mind or things that you feel strongly about. Be expressive, elaborate your points, all right? The more they know about you, all right, the more the examiner or the teacher knows about you, the easier it will be for them to choose a good topic card for you. So this is why warm-up conversation is important, okay? And during the preparation period, okay, you are given time to have a look at the topic card and think about what you want to say in the conversation, right? You are given 2 to 3 minutes to prepare, okay? So during this preparation period, in case you don't understand anything on the card, all right, maybe a word or the prompt that you don't understand, you can ask the examiner any questions regarding the topic card that was given. Okay, don't think that questions cannot be asked. You are given the chance to ask. However, remember, questions can only be asked in part C. Part D, once the assess conversation have begun, you are not allowed to ask any question. Okay? Part D is fully based on the conversation only, no questions. Please remember this. Number 2, make sure you use the full 3 minutes allowed. Preparation period 2 to 3 minutes, so you must use the 2 to 3 minutes given. All right? Try to think of the things you can say linked to the opening sentence on the card and for each of the bullet points. Okay? And also think about some interesting vocabulary that you can use. Don't use too much of simple words, something that's very common. Be more interesting, so that it will be a more fun conversation, an informative conversation, not a boring one. Okay? Number 3, be aware that the examiner is going to ask you additional questions based on the points on the card. Okay? They will ask you extra questions, not only on what is on the card, not the prompts only. So you can think about other questions that the examiner may ask you. All right, you can just predict or roughly predict what could they possibly ask you. All right, and not only that, you must also prepare on what you are going to reply to their questions. What is your response going to be? Okay, that is the whole purpose of this preparation period. You are mentally preparing yourself on what you're going to talk about during the assess conversation. All right. So during this preparation period, you can also plan to include additional talking points of your own which are linked to the topic area. All right. So this will actually help you to make the conversation more interesting, and it might also lead you to a higher mark. So in other words, you can talk more than the 5 points given. You can take the conversation into other areas, but it has to be related to the topic. For example, the topic is something about school. You cannot talk about food. Okay, it's very irrelevant. So stay according to the topic and share your ideas. All right, so this is for the preparation period. Now, some tips for your during your assess conversation. Okay, so during your assess conversation, usually it is the examiner who starts the conversation by asking a question. But if you think that you want to start the conversation, you may. All right, you are allowed to start the conversation, but usually it is the examiner who starts the conversation. All right. Second thing that you must remember is you must listen carefully to the examiner's questions. Okay. For example, they ask you a question and you don't understand what they said, then you can ask the examiner to repeat the question differently. Okay. For example, you can say, please, can you explain what you mean? Or you can say, can you please repeat the question? All right. Please remember, you have to be respectful because it's your teacher or your examiner and the whole thing is being recorded. Okay, you cannot talk in a very informal way. Instead, maintain the formal tone. All right, say, please, can you explain what did you say, or can you repeat the question? Okay. Number 3, during the assess conversation, it is very important for you to speak loudly and clearly. This one is very important for all of you who have a very soft voice I encourage you to speak louder. Okay, even though inside the room there's only 2 of you, but if you're going to be very soft, then whatever you say is not going to be loud enough in the recorder. Okay, so be loud and clear. All right, speak at your normal pace rather than trying to speak too quickly or too slowly. All right, don't be nervous. It's a speaking test, I know, but speak at your normal pace. That means just like how do you speak at home, at your house, to your parents, to your friends, all right? Speak at a normal pace. You don't have to speak too fast, all right? Too quickly or too slowly. Don't go too slow, so then the time will be running out, okay? Next, try to develop your points and speak at length, okay? Some of you, if the question asks what are your hobbies, you just state your hobbies only. Don't just say yes or no. Okay, elaborate your answers. Don't cut the conversation short. The more you elaborate, the better it is. Okay, the higher your marks. All right, but at the same time, allow the chance for the examiner to comment or ask you questions relating to what you have said. Okay, you cannot be the only one talking. Every time you respond, give a chance for the examiner also to respond something to what you have said. And then only you can have a two-way conversation. All right? So please remember, part D is not about delivering a speech, okay? Or just answering questions based on the prompts given, okay? But if you think that you are actually doing a speech or answering the questions only, then try to have more of a genuine conversation, okay? Try to be as natural as possible. Your examiner will be listening very carefully. In case they realize that you are making a speech or you're talking to yourself or it's a monologue, they will try to stop you and ask you questions, okay? Just to be more interactive, all right? Please remember, the key to success in this part is to be relaxed. Your speaking test, you must be relaxed throughout the whole test. You should feel that you have enjoyed a good chat with the examiner. If you think you had a good chat with the examiner, you managed to have a good conversation, then you just need to know that you did a good job. Okay, like I said, it's not about how much you know about the topic, but it is more about how well you develop the conversation. That is the purpose of your speaking test. Clear? So I've given you some tips. Now I'm just going to give you some things that you should remember. Just remember, the warm-up part is for you to calm down and also to get ready for what is expected throughout the other parts. Number 2, you must mention your particular interest, such as your hobby, your interest, or any other issues, the current issues that is going in your mind. Then only the examiner will be able to choose a good topic card for you. Okay? And then you must also know how the test will actually run. You must know the procedure. Remember earlier we went through all the 4 parts, right? You must know all these 4 parts very well. Okay, only then you will understand how this entire speaking test will be carried out. It will be more smooth also. The flow of it will be smooth. Okay. Questions, like I said, questions are allowed to be asked only in part C. You cannot ask questions in part D. And during the preparation time, you are given time to look at the topic card and also to prepare, right? So please remember, you can't make notes in part C, all right? You cannot bring dictionary as well, okay? And also, if you are thinking that the topics might be difficult, then don't worry. Topics usually will be about conversations that can be developed easily. They won't give something that's too difficult. All right, usually the topics given are very straightforward and direct. Okay, so you don't need to have any prior knowledge or you don't have to prepare beforehand. All right. And like I said, speaking test is not about delivering a speech. It's about you having a discussion with a teacher or an examiner. Okay, And the rubric I told you earlier, 3 things that you need to pay attention is structure. How do you know you did well in structure? You ask yourself this question. Am I using spoken language sentences and phrases accurately? Okay, while you're actually talking, ask yourself this kind of questions. Am I using the spoken language or sentences and phrases accurately? All right. Number 2, for vocabulary, ask yourself, am I using a wide range of words or am I sticking to the same common words, the simple words? Okay. Third one, fluency. Ask yourself, can I take part in a two-way conversation? Perhaps extending the prompts or ideas that the examiner has brought up. So if you check with yourself with all these 3 things and you think you're doing a good job, then you are on the right path for your speaking test. Okay? So again, let me repeat. The key to success in your speaking test is to be relaxed. Okay? Don't panic. Don't be nervous. Be very calm. Stay calm. All right? Then only you will be able to perform well. Okay? So do you have any questions for me regarding speaking test, your component 5? Any questions? No? So now that we have covered paper 2, paper 4, and paper 5 now, I just want to give you some top tips for your revision. I'm sure after this you will be on full force doing your revision. So let me give you some tips if you think that you need to work on your reading skills. So let me just remind you, you must read as widely as often as you can. All right, you can read any fiction or non-fiction text such as books, all right, articles, newspaper, magazines, or anything on the internet. That is the only way you can work on your reading skills. Okay, the more you read, the better it is. Okay, practice skimming a range of text. Skimming means you just glance through, you just go through a text and you'll get the idea. So when you read quickly, you will decide the main ideas of those articles. All right. So that's for reading. I'm going to give you some tips for your writing also. Like for paper 2, there's a lot of writing, right? So writing, I would say, write formally, do more practice on formal writings, informal writings, all right? And different forms, all the formats that we have learned so far, email writing, informal letter, formal letter, report, article writing. So please do more practice. That's how you can work on your writing skills. So every time you write, please check on those following criteria, such as spelling, punctuation, grammar, vocabulary, linking words and paragraphs, writing to a specific word count, writing a summary. So all these are very important when it comes to your writing skills. Okay? And then every time you write, you can try to check and edit your own writing. Okay? Now, listening. In our previous session, we learned on how, what are the tips and techniques on answering your listening paper. So how can you work on your listening skills is always try to listen to a person or 2 people speaking formally or informally, all right? Or anyone who is speaking from a different place, okay? So what you can do is practice listening for particular words or phrases, okay? So that's the only way you can improve your listening skills. And also it's very important for you to stay focused and your concentration is important. And the last one, your speaking test, all right? The only way you can improve your speaking skills is you must get involved in as many conversation or discussion activities as much as you can. The more you do discussion with your friends, with your teachers, okay, the better it is. All right, you will know what are the words that you struggle to pronounce, okay? So you can use some of the past year papers, all right, the topic cards, go through the topic cards, go through the prompts, all right? Try to come up with ideas on how you would talk to the examiner, okay? So remember, in your speaking test, the things that they will look at is the phrases or sentence structure that you use, the range of words that you have used, the choice of words, and the detail you included, your content points, all right, and the development of your idea. How are you trying to develop the topic that was given to you? And not only that, how clearly and how fluently you have spoke throughout the test. So these are the tips that I can share with you. I hope this is very useful and helpful for your upcoming IGCSE examinations. And we have come to the end of our session. I wish you all the best for your exam.